Today, I'm going to show you how to use examples, analogies, similes, and metaphors to build your ideas in your paragraph. I find that after students write their topic sentence and maybe even add a quote, they're at a loss of what to do next when writing a paragraph. This results in many repetitive and vague essays. We're going to fix that today. If you're like me, you're probably pretty confused on the difference between example, analogy, and metaphor, so I'll clear that up in this video. To be honest, I think analogies might be one of the most effective writing skills. I'm going to give you loads of examples so that it's super clear. And I guarantee that if you start to use this in your writing, your teacher will notice a major difference. So let's get started. Let's start by talking about examples. And if you're wondering, yes, I will give you an example of an example. Wow, that was confusing. The whole point of an example is to explain your main points by showing the reader what you mean. Well, let me give you this example. Let's say that this is my topic sentence. Batman is the greatest superhero because he uses his creative genius to create new and innovative technology to solve his problems. After reading a topic sentence like this, here's my thought. Okay, that's great and all, but can you show me? Can you give an example that proves your point? For example, Shane Smith, a comic book movie critic, states that when Batman realized Superman was a threat to humanity in the movie Dawn of Justice, he gets a hold of some kryptonite, Superman's only known weakness, and creates a spear with it to protect Earth from the terror of Superman. At the end of the battle, Batman is standing over Superman with the spear in hand. In this paragraph, I give my reader a clear example of how Batman creates innovative technology to protect people. My example is not repetitive, but builds off the idea previously stated in the topic sentence. It also shows my reader the main point rather than just telling them. Real quick, if you found anything of value so far in the video, smash the like button. Next, let's talk about how to use analogies in your writing. In order to do this, let's also look at similes and metaphors because they're kind of connected. Two quick things. I did a bit of research for this part of the video, so all the links and resources I used are down in the video description. I'm also going to explain the difference between analogies, similes, and metaphors, but to be honest, it's not really vital that you actually memorize that information. Like, you can be highly effective in your writing and still not know if you use a simile or metaphor in your paragraph. Grammarly defines a simile as a type of figurative language that describes something by comparing it to something else with the words like or as. Basically, when you compare two things using like or as. Here's an example. You're as strong as Batman, or you're strong like Batman. Grammarly states a metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way that isn't literally true, but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. Grammarly goes on to say that basically, a metaphor states that one thing is another thing. It compares two things that are not alike, and you can't take a metaphor literal. Here's an example. Batman's muscles are steel. Superman is a couch potato. He's not literally a couch potato, but just lazy and useless. Now, I know what you're thinking, that you have to memorize and know the difference between a simile and a metaphor. But like I said, you can still be highly effective in your writing and not know whether to use a metaphor or simile. But Writer's Digest gives a great example. Here's a metaphor. Time is a thief. Is it literally a thief? No. Whereas a simile says time is like a thief. And then here's the analogy. Time is like a thief, and that thieves steal physical objects and time steals moments of our lives. Now let's actually break down what an analogy is and how to use it, because I think it's probably one of the most effective writing skills you can use. In her master's class, Judy Bloom says an analogy is something that shows how two things are alike, but with the ultimate goal of making a point about this comparison. Think about it like this. Analogies are made up of metaphors and similes with the ultimate goal of proving and explaining a point. The ultimate goal is not just to compare two things, but to build and clarify your ideas in your writing. Here's an example. When I talk about plagiarism, I find that's a really hard concept for students to grasp. So I usually give examples of what it is and what it isn't. But I still find that students have a hard time understanding how to avoid plagiarism. So I give this analogy. Imagine I stole your car, took it to my house, gave it new tires and a paint job, and it looked completely different. Whose car would it be? Would it be your car or my car? The reality is it's still your car. Even though I changed the way the car looks, at the end of the day, it's still your car. It's the same thing with plagiarism. Just because you put something in your own words doesn't make it your idea. It's still someone else's idea, so you have to give them credit. Notice I compared plagiarism to stealing a car. but the whole point was to prove a point and further explain a difficult concept. And that's why I think analogies are super powerful, because you build a connection with your reader by explaining a difficult concept and helping them understand it. Whether you use an example, analogy, metaphor, or simile, the whole point is for them to understand a difficult concept and to not just tell them something, but to show them. I find that examples are a great way to show something, where analogies are a great way to prove a point. Now let's review, revise, and edit your writing. After your topic sentence and your quote, what's the best way to prove your points or explain your ideas? An example, a simile, a metaphor, an analogy? Is your writing too repetitive? If it is, take out those ideas and put an example or analogy. Is there a concept that's very difficult to visualize or for the reader to understand? If so, give an analogy or example. Lastly, check your spelling and grammar. Wow, that felt like a stroll through the park, or like climbing Mount Everest. Either way, smash the like button, hit subscribe. Adios.